How many of you have experienced a lapse in communication like was just displayed by that little skit? Such lapses in interpersonal communication, or the sharing of info between two people, happen often. Therefore, it's very important that we are competent communicators, as it will improve many areas of our lives. Today we will discuss 4 main aspects of interpersonal communication, including expressing desires and expectations, providing emotional support, managing privacy, and managing conflict.
The first main point is expressing desires and expectations. There are 4 different communication styles that people tend to express themselves as. The first communication style that I'm going to be talking about is passive communication, in which you do not express your personal preferences or defend your rights to others. For example, you and your best friend are talking, and then the next thing you know, she made some comment about how much weight you gained or how bad you look over and over again. However, you don't tell her that it hurts your feelings. We tend to be more passive when we value the other person's relationship more than we value asserting our own particular need. This can be very destructive because in the end you can end up resenting the person you have the relationship with. The second type of communication is aggressive. This is where you belligerently or violently confront others with your preferences, feelings, needs, or rights, with little regard for their preferences or rights. Imagine 2 girls in high school and there was gossiping going around, and then next thing you know, out in the hallway you hear screaming and yelling and 2 girls just tearing each other apart verbally, calling each other's nasty names and everything. People tend to be aggressive to perceive themselves as powerful. They do not value the other person, lack of emotional control, or they just feel defensive. Passive-aggressive communication is the third type. This is where you submit to others' demands and conceal your own personal preferences while expressing hostility towards them. For example, Sarah saying it was okay for Emily to date her ex-boyfriend, but then later starts ignoring her or gossiping about her. And then when Emily confronts her saying, I thought it was okay if I dated him, Sarah replied, well, I guess I'm not okay with it. This can be damaging over time because you can lose mutual respect for one another. The last communication style is assertive. This is just simple, where you express your personal preferences and rights. There are some considerations to take in while expressing desires and expectations. Some cultural ones are like assertiveness is valued in individualistic cultures like the US, but it's not normal for across the world. In collective cultures like China and Japan, they value accord and harmony, so this means they'd be more passive. North Americans interpret assertiveness may be perceived as rude and intense by people in collective cultures. Latino and Hispanic cultures, men exercise behavior that goes beyond the guidelines for being assertive. They do this to preserve the honor of their family and to lead to dominance in situations that may not have otherwise warranted confrontation. There are also co-cultural considerations to take in. Like the US may prefer different types of communication styles. Female who socialize to embrace feminine gender norms are more likely to be passive or passive-aggressive, when men tend to be more aggressive. Both genders would better benefit if they would take the passive-aggressive, or aggression and channel it towards working on being assertive. So when talking to people whose cultural or co-cultural differ from your own, you might want to observe that their behavior and responses to your statements before you can be sure about how to best communicate your needs, rights, and desires and expectations. Now that we have discussed the different types of communication styles and some expectation or some considerations to take in while expressing desires and expectations, let's look into providing emotional support. To
provide emotional support, we will discuss when someone might need it, what is comforting, and the guidelines to comforting. Can you remember a time when you were emotionally upset? Perhaps someone close to you unexpectedly dies, or that you had to break up with your significant other who you thought would last forever, or even your best friend betrayed you. If so, you probably have received emotional support from family and friends, or have even given it to someone. So what does comforting mean? It is defined as helping people feel better about themselves, their behavior, or their situation by creating a safe conversational space where they can express their feelings and work out a plan for the future. This usually occurs over several conversations that may span between weeks, months, and even years. Many people believe that women expect, need, and provide more emotional support than men. However, according to our book, it has become a value in both of the sexes. So we've touched base on the term comforting. There are 5 guidelines I'd like to talk about. The first one is clarify supportive intentions. When people are in an emotional state, they might have trouble trusting the motives of others. For example, if you, Bailey and Allie, have been working together for so many years at a salon together, if Allie walks by and sees Bailey looking upset, she asks her if she's okay. And if Bailey replies with, "Why would you care? I'm fine," Allie would then respond with, "I do care. We've been working together for so long, and we've become really good friends." And then after, she would say, "I'm here to talk to you if you need anything or need any advice." By doing this guideline, Allie is showing Bailey that her intentions are to help. The second guideline is the buffer face threats with politeness. But some of the vocab should be understood first. The first vocab word is face, the perception we want others to have of our own worth. And the second one is positive face needs, which is the desire to be appreciated, liked, and honored. And the third vocab word is negative face needs, which are the desires to be free from imposition and intrusion. The very act of providing comfort can threaten your partner's face needs. Effective messages must be phrased in ways that address the other person's positive and negative face needs. The next vocab word, which leads into this, is the buffering message, which means comforting messages that are phrased very politely in ways that address another person's face needs. So when Allie says to Bailey, "We've been working together for so long and become really good friends," she's attending to Bailey's positive face need to be valued. And when Allie says, "I'm here to talk," she attends to Bailey's negative face need for independence. For the third guideline is encourage understanding through other-centered messages, which is defined as comforting messages that encourage relational partners to talk about and elaborate on what happened and how they feel about it. By doing this, you can ask more elaborate questions to get a better answer or explanation. Other-centered messages is the most highly valued type of comforting message among most cultural and co-cultural groups. For the fourth guideline, it's reframing the situation, which is defined as offering ideas, observations, information, or alternative explanations that might help a relational partner understand a situation in a different light. For example, if your friend is flunking a class here at Winona State University and they want to drop out before completely flunking out, you might suggest to them or point out information that shows your friend how they can help their grade. You might suggest working less, or going to the library for quiet study hours, or even attending a tutoring session. By providing this, you're showing new observations and information to help your friend reframe the situation and make this from impossible to manageable. The last guideline is giving advice, which means presenting relevant suggestions that a person can use to resolve a situation. You should not give advice, however, until your supportive intentions have been understood, which is our first guideline. You have attended your partner's face needs, which is the second guideline, and you have sustained an other-centered conversation for some time, which is our third guideline. You want to always ask permission before giving advice, and say it's only a suggestion and present possible or potential costs and risks towards taking their advice. And tell them that it's okay to not follow it. And now that we have discussed when someone might need it, what comforting means, and the guidelines for comforting, we can look into managing privacy and disclosure.
about disclosure and privacy management. The definition of disclosure is revealing confidential or private information about oneself, and privacy management is maintaining this information and minimalizing your vulnerability when talking to others. People tend to switch back and forth between disclosure and privacy management. The effects of disclosure are intimacy and reciprocity. Intimacy is protecting one's feelings, avoiding conflict, protecting a relationship, or reestablishing independence. And reciprocity is having an equal amount of disclosed information, which is very important between partners in life. One may disclose information before the other, and that is perfectly okay. Information for co-ownership is how you treat this information given to you, as in sharing it without permission might not be a good thing for you to do. Public and private information is becoming blurry over the lines through the internet today. The disclosure guidelines draw a better line between sharing information that is personal, about feelings, or giving your feedback. Personal information is taken in 5 steps. First, self-disclose what you want them to reciprocate. Second, self-disclose this private information that represents an okay risk for you to share. Third, move gradually into deeper levels of your feelings. 4, continue only if it is reciprocated back to you. And 5, reserve personal information for ongoing intimate relationships. Sharing personal feelings is when you describe your feelings and you're verbally naming how you feel. First, you talk about what triggered it. Second is you be specific about what these feelings are, and then you phrase it in an I statement. Providing personal feedback is when you're first describing specific behavior. This is accurately accounting specific behaviors without commenting if it is appropriate or not for them to say. Then, not acting hastily, identify what they said and do not generalize. Second is praising the positives. Call them out for their positives and share this with others. Third is constructive criticism. Ask for permission, describe their behavior and consequences specifically, then reflect on what they have said with an affirming statement, validating your respect for them. Then, if they want, tell them how to change their behavior. Now we will talk about the privacy management guidelines. These privacy management guidelines maintain privacy without damaging the relationship. There are 3 indirect strategies and 1 direct strategy when disclosing information you do not wish to share. The 3 indirect strategies are: first, you want to change the subject. Second, mask your feelings. And third, tell a white lie. Then the direct strategy is when you have to establish your personal boundaries. Begin by recognizing what you can't keep and the information that you want to keep to yourself. Next, preface this with an apology or a face-saving statement. Then form an I statement, establishing the boundary. Now that we know more about the benefits of disclosure, the disclosure guidelines, and how to better manage your privacy, we can talk about what happens when there are issues in communication.
When issues arise in communicating, it's important that we know how to manage conflict. But first we must define what an interpersonal conflict is. Firstly, an interpersonal conflict is expressed, meaning that both people in the conflict are aware that they're in a conflict. Secondly, an interpersonal conflict is interdependent, meaning that the outcome of the conflict depends on the actions of both people. And interpersonal conflict is also incompatible, meaning that both people in the conflict will lose something if the other gets their way. Before we talk about the different types of conflict management styles, I want to remind you that conflict is not always bad. Conflict is a natural part of relationships, and in fact, working through issues can actually strengthen relationships. Conflict also needs to be faced, because if you don't face an issue, it can escalate and get worse. So, now, how do you solve an issue that arises in interpersonal communication? There are 5 main conflict management styles, the first of which is avoidance. Avoiding is physically or psychologically removing yourself from the conflict. This is an unassertive and uncooperative style and results in a lose-lose outcome. However, it's your classic, I don't want to talk about it. But avoiding can, however, be appropriate when tempers need to cool off before you can truly discuss an issue. But if you continue to avoid the issue, a conflict can worsen later on. The second conflict management style is accommodating. Accommodation is satisfying the needs of the opposition while neglecting your own needs and desires. This is an important style for when you value the relationship that you have with the other person more than the issue or the outcome of the issue. For example, if you're going on a date and you hate love movies, but your date loves love movies, maybe you'll watch the cheesy love movie with your lover just to make them happy. It's an unassertive and cooperative style that results in a lose-win situation. The third conflict management style is competing. Competing is the satisfaction of your own needs with little or no concern for the desires of the other person or for your relationship with that person. It's an assertive and uncooperative style with a win-lose outcome. This can be appropriate when decisive action needs to be quickly taken to ensure your own or another's welfare. This is a common style used by parents who are telling their children what to do, or for example, if you tell your kid to wear a bike helmet, you're obviously caring more about their safety, and it's something that they shouldn't argue against. However, when using the competition style, you need to be aware of falsely resolved conflict, and if your partner is constantly accommodating, ill feelings can be harbored towards you. The fourth style of conflict management is compromise. When compromising, each person in the argument gives up a part of what they want to satisfy a part of what the other wants. This is a partially assertive and partially cooperative style, resulting in a partial lose-lose or partial win-win outcome. Compromising can be appropriate when an issue is moderately important, when there are time constraints, or when collaboration fails. An example of compromising is like going on a date and not having enough money to buy 2 ice cream cones, but you really like chocolate and he really likes vanilla, so you buy a twist cone and share it. The fifth style of conflict management is collaborating. Collaborating is working through a problem together to discover a mutually satisfying solution. It's an assertive and cooperative style that results in a win-win outcome. It's useful for important conflicts and relationships that you want to keep intact. An example of this is like when going on a vacation. Let's say Jen and Rob want to go on vacation together, and Rob wants to go alone to have some quality time with Jen, but Jen wants to save money and go with another couple. Maybe they could compromise by deciding on a cheaper place to stay, and then they could still go alone. However, because collaboration is the most effective style, we have some guidelines to share with you on how to go about collaborating successfully. The first guideline for collaboration is to identify the problem and to mentally rehearse how you're going to bring the problem up to your partner. This way you can bring up the problem without placing blame on the other person, and also you can bring up the problem while avoiding highly emotional complications in there as well. And it's also important when collaborating to show genuine concern for the other person. Ask them questions about their opinion and their feelings on the matter, and about what they think you should do. Use a lot of I statements again so that they don't feel blamed. And also when collaborating, come up with a bunch of possible solutions to the problem so that you can pick the best one.
Today we've discussed many aspects of interpersonal communication. These include expressing desires and expectations, providing emotional support, managing privacy and disclosure, and managing conflict. Knowing how to be an effective communicator reaps benefits throughout life. We hope that now our speech has provided insight on how to improve your own interpersonal skills.